Nearly half a century ago, Oracle transformed how the world managed data. More than a decade ago, we reimagined how business works in the cloud. And now, as AI reshapes how we operate, compete, and innovate, Oracle is once again leading the way. That data, it's now your AI fuel. That cloud, it now trains and runs the world's most powerful AI models. And those models, they power the Gen AI built into your business processes and the AI agents that automate it all. Oracle brings AI to every corner of your business so you can imagine beyond the boundaries of what's possible. Whether it's leveraging AI to increase productivity, make decisions faster, and save money, using AI-powered forecasting to secure and maintain a power grid for millions of customers, training AI models to make the world's most powerful particle accelerator run faster and more efficiently, or harnessing AI vector search to tackle antibiotic resistance. We help you stay ahead because Oracle was built for the era of AI, so we can build the future of AI for you.
Please welcome to the stage Sovan Shatpathy.
I was told I'm supposed to stand here, so I'm practicing. All right. Good morning, all. I'm very happy that it's 8 a.m. We are caffeinated. We are here. All of you are my favorite people right now because we made it. And by the way, AI did not make me get ready and come back here. Having said that, AI is everywhere, to be very honest. I have been in tech industry for quite a long time, and I've never been this excited in terms of, can we go back, please? I've never been this excited about what is the potential of AI. It impacts all sectors, all industries, and when it comes to global banking and financial services, we are talking about banking 4.0, which is AI-infused. You're not doing AI for the sake of checking a box. It's about like the blood in your veins. That's the best metaphor I can think of, and I'll build on it. Stay with me. We have a lot of interesting demos to show all of you. So if we look at the transitions, which is where I was, tech, if you think about 1960s, we had what I call as monolithic systems, right? You're thinking about mainframe vaults. You're thinking about systems where everything is built inside of the vault. It works really well. It works at scale. It works for like maybe 100,000 transactions per second or more, but everything is in the vault. That still runs a lot of global banking today when it comes to the systems of record. You fast forward to early 1990s. We all got email accounts, right? I got one, Yahoo email account with my birth year. I was pretty happy. I thought I was very smart. But now when I look at it, it feels like I have reached middle age. It's okay, it's a life's journey. But what happened in 1990s is the concept of SOA came in, right? Service-oriented architecture. What it means is all about reusable business services. What's the fundamental concept? Build it once, use it multiple places. Could be in know your customer, could be a customer information, could be something in your database you need to pick up. There were concepts like three-tier architecture which came with it, web tier, app tier, databases, storage. You fast forward now to 2007, 2008, Amazon is upon us, right? AWS more specifically. Cloud is suddenly everywhere. What happens to banking technology? The concept of cloud native architectures now come in. Things like elasticity, things like microservices. It was a buzzword, it is not. You're talking about small atomic services which are being built up to kind of bring you the overall experience in the customer layer or the product layer. You started to talk about self-healing systems, self-optimizing systems. You talk about real-time processing, and of course, an API-first ecosystem. You fast forward to 2022, we are still getting out of COVID, but something seismic happened, frankly speaking. ChatGPT burst on our consciousness. AI has been around for a while, but generative AI, in terms of being generative, pre-trained, and neural networks, that started to pick pace 2022 and later. And when we start to talk about Generation 4 banking technology, it's basically an AI-first, AI-infused ecosystem. But what I want all of you to know is it's not like we leaped from 1960s all the way to 2025. You got to build it in phases, right? You go from the monolithic systems, you had the service-oriented architectures, you get into cloud native, and now you're in AI-infused ecosystem. We'll talk about it. There are a couple of words there, MCP, Model Context Protocol. You break down the jargon, it's all about how do you expose data, your private data, which Larry was talking about yesterday, in a manner that these foundational language models can actually understand it, so that you breed and combine what's in a large language model and what's inside of your firewall to be a true differentiative mode for you in your bank. So as we move forward here, now that we are anchoring on AI-infused platform, there are many tenets. I could go on and on. This could be up for some debate too, but there are 4 to 5 which are foundational in our view. If we go from top left to bottom right, you talk about agentic ecosystem. So we have generative AI. Now we have agents, right? Agents kind of are like that. If you really think about it, the modern applications are going to be a series of agents which are working in harmony across a simple to medium to complex workflow or business process. Then it's not about AI replacing, it's more about how do you reimagine your experiences, how do you reimagine your business processes in the front office of the bank, in the mid office, in the back office, and everything in between. Banking, I don't have to tell this audience, is a trust-based business. If you lose the trust, there is no bank. Retail bank, corporate bank, it ain't matter. So there is always the case of risk management, enterprise risk management, internal audit. We are thinking about fraud, crime, compliance, regulators, and of course, human in the loop. So everything we are architecting has the ability to kind of intersect the risk tolerance of the bank in question here, which will be different from bank A to bank B. Then, if you look at the bottom, we talk about feature and vector stores. At this point, I think most of you have a data ecosystem, lakes, lakehouse. You talk about event stores, like data hubs, semantic layers. But what's happened with AI is the data needs to be vectorized, right? That's the way you present it. It's not just bit or byte. It's somewhere in between. So now you need to have feature stores and vector stores which become part of your data ecosystem. Then last but not the least, you're talking about componentized and composable. That's already been there with the cloud-native products. But think of it this way. Discrete, fit-for-purpose products which work equally well in isolation or in harmony across your banking ecosystem. That's a huge shift from where monolithic systems were. If we move forward, so we start to talk about agents. This comes across as a primer, but again, please stay with me. The demos will tell 1,000 stories. If you go from the top row, when we talk about an insight agent or a level 1 agent, it's a fundamental agent. We all know this, actually. How do you extract, synthesize, and present? There are some examples there, but the best example I will give, I was recently in Alaska with my family in July. You think I went to like TripAdvisor and a bunch of places to plan it? Heck no. I went to GPT, I said 10 days, 2 kids, here's my plan, want to hit Denali, want to go to Anchorage, want to go to Seward. Hey, by the way, I have a 9-year-old son who drives me crazy. Can you tell me a plan? It gave me a plan. We followed it T by T. Then, AI is context aware. It's day 9. He says, hey, Savan, I think you have done most of it, but I know that your son likes Ferris wheel. I said, yeah, absolutely, yes. Where can I do it? Go to Anchorage Marketplace. You will check off that box. That will be his highlight, his memory growing up with us. So you just see that right there in my personal life, too, is a classic Insight L1 agent in action. Then you start to look at more of like L2, deterministic agents, we are calling it. You could call it something else. But at the end of the day, these are simple to complex action-driven business processes which are doing very specialized tasks. In a retail banking context, the classic example is mortgage origination. Heck of a complex process. Now, if you have a series of deterministic agents, it will essentially streamline the entire mortgage origination process if you start to think about it. And then, in my view, is the real fun stuff, the L3 agents, which are more like complex decisioning agents. What that means is, now, complex decisioning agents are at the top of the pile, right? They're working with L1 and L2 agents, and somebody could come in through your digital channel and interact with the complex agents and that, hey, I want to refinance my mortgage. It's been 30-year fixed, whatever, at 8%. Looks like Fed is cutting the interest rate, and what does it look like? Normally, that becomes the 2 weeks to 2-month process here in the US. But you will see actually a demo where you could do it in days, probably in hours, depending on the kind of risk tolerance you have. So those are the 3 kinds of agents, L1, L2, L3. Now, if you kind of intersect that with the notion of a bank, right? So there is an experience agent and a domain agent. If you really think about it, what's the key difference, right? An experience agent is essentially interacting with a human. Could be a customer, could be a banker. It's context aware. It gets continually better, right? If you really think about it. My Alaska experience at many levels is an experience kind of interaction which gets continually better, right? It maintains the state, it maintains the memory, it knows about me, my interest, my idiosyncrasies, and everything in between, right? Now, if you think about a domain agent, that's more of like semi-autonomous to autonomous agents which are interacting with data and systems and everything in between, right? So you're talking about agents which are operating based on almost predetermined business rules and executing it. And you will see that experience and domain agents will play in harmony. Now I will tie it back to the previous slide because the levels of agents I talked about, they could be, an experience or a domain agent could be an L1, L2, or L3 agent. To me, this is like a work of art. I look at it, I feel good. I hope all of you also resonate with it. If you really think about it, I'm a big fan of architectures, right? This could be a reference architecture for any intelligent AI-first bank. So now, you have your customer layer. Ain't matter, B2B, B2C, you're in commercial banking, corporate banking, retail banking, you have a customer. That's where you're having all of the omni-channels, the sales channel, the service channels, and now you start to have the experience agents, your digital banking agents, and everything in between. Then you have the action layer, where all the business processes of the bank start to become a series of domain agents, if you start to talk about it. Then comes like what I call as Oracle's secret sauce in the intelligence layer, because agents are not magic, right? It requires orchestration, it requires runtime. It needs to have what I call as hallucination check. It should have model risk management. It is talking to a foundational language model. A lot of things are going on. All of them start to happen in the intelligence layer, or like the AI fabric, if you want to think about it. Then you have the data layer, right? The data layer, you have your investments. Now you have vector stores and feature stores, and they're all coming together. And ultimately, you have your foundational layer, where you have your systems of record. Think of it like deposits and accounts, or limits and collateral management, or pick your, like a payment hub. There are multiple things which become like systems of record. And the control, by design, cuts across, because when you think about entitlement, governance, security, it is very important that you have a security layer which cuts across all of these to keep the bank secure, right? So if I go to next view of it, it gets a little bit more decomposed, like we called it. But again, just stay with my script here, right? If you go from the top, the experience layer, so now you're seeing how the story stitches out. We talked about the levels of agents. We talked about experience and domain agents. We talked about the 50,000 feet reference architecture. And now we are getting into what I call as the 20,000 feet reference architecture, right? So in the experience layer, you have your usual suspects, omni-channel, you have all the stuff, social, sales channel, intelligent virtual assistants, but what makes entry is all these experience agents. And now you can start to internalize the domain agents because your domains like a product and price, or a cash, or a trade, or a origination, collection, servicing, payment processing, all of them start to become what I call as domain agents. And then you have the intelligence plane, the data plane, and then you have the thin codes, right? Because if you if you remember the generational slide I talked about, fourth generation banking is more about having thin transactional ledgers which do few things and they do it really, really well, which is transaction reconciliation, settlement, processing, because all of the other actions, literally speaking, no pun intended, is happening in the layers above. And then I did not talk about the concept in the previous slide, but I'll address it here. It's called cloud native fabric, right? So what does that jargon mean? It essentially means that every product in the Oracle banking suite is deployable in your deployment paradigm of choice. Of course, every innovation will start in our multi-tenant OCI SaaS first, but you could deploy it in your bring your own cloud strategy. You could deploy it in your captive data center, or what we call as cloud at customer, which means that you take the shrunk wrap OCI stack and run it inside of your data center. You have the control plane again, which cuts across. And then there are a couple of things on the right? Because big banks will always do extensions, will always do things which are unique to them. So we intend to also provide what we call as a design studio or a financial services studio, so that I may ship hundreds of agents and capabilities from the product factory, but you should be able to extend it based on your need. And then there's a product called Interconnect, which is all about how do you take data from your circa 1960 mainframes into 2026. Any one of us who has lived it knows that that's not that's not like child's play, right? You got to figure it out, because you're basically saying, I was driving Ford Model T, now I want to have a Tesla X. Well, good luck with that. I mean, how are you going to take all of that architecture and port it? So this right here essentially brings everything together. And if I were to summarize it, the bottom three layer, right? The data plane, the cloud native fabric, control plane, that's all about what I call as, or we call as, run the bank. It's all about speed, it's all about scale, it's all about reliability, it's all about resiliency. Because if these systems are down, nothing else matters. Whereas if you start to look at the top, the experience layer, the action layer, and the fabric, it's all about agility, innovation, intelligence, and execution. Everything from now we'll talk about in the next 20 minutes is we will start to show you these experience and domain agents in action across a series of different facets of banking. With that, I want to invite to stage my friend Jason Wynn, who runs our products for financial risk and compliance.
Hi, Sonny.
Jason, you want to add anything before we roll?
No, I'm just looking to see, looking to show everyone some of the AI that we've got in action.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have 4 demos. I'm done with architecture and talking, but being an architect at heart, everything starts with dreaming big, then you work backwards. Now you see it in action. So the first one is about retail banking. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I don't want any of you to read this, okay? What this slide is a very complex business process or a workflow which has got, I lose the count, maybe like 6 experience agents and 1 domain agent in play, which will tell the story of a customer from how they manage personal wealth to how they go through refinance and everything in between. So without further ado, let's actually roll the video to show how these 7 agents are playing in harmony. Let's roll the video, please.
Meet Grace, a retail banking customer who wants her bank to quietly have her back every step of her day. And Davis, her banker, determined to make every interaction meaningful. AI connects them in ways they don't even notice. Let's follow Grace through her day. Grace pays for groceries with her phone, covers bills with the voice command, and grabs her usual coffee on the way to work. The Spend Analyzer agent tracks her spends and sets a gentle cap for weekday spends and keeps it flexible. The next time she's about to go over, it reminds her, but doesn't restrict her. Later, Grace checks her AI-powered dashboard to review her net worth as she researches personal loan options. Based on her preferences and spend pattern, AI identifies that she will have a cash deficit in the near term, and accordingly, the product recommendation agent scans through all eligible products and offers the most relevant loan products which suit Grace's requirements, and has lined them up for her to review. The personalized product agent chooses offers, helps compare products, and draws up a product summary for easy consumption. With a few taps, the smart application agent lets Grace upload her documents and initiate her application. The personalized repayment plan agent draws up a personalized repayment schedule based on her cash flows. It identifies additional cash availability in November, increases the corresponding installment, and she checks and accepts the plan.
So, Sovan, this is great. We've just seen how AI agents can help the customer. But we all know that bankers are part of the process as well. It's not just about a customer sort of clicking a few buttons and then next minute they've got a product from the bank. So have you done anything with regard to the banker?
You know, Jason, we absolutely have. It's all about the customer and the banker, right? They kind of have to tango together. So the next part of the video actually says how it makes the life easy for the banker in the back office or mid office in this entire experience. So why don't we roll it?
The application lands with Davis, the banker. Now it's Davis's turn. Davis logs in and looks at his AI-powered dashboard where his day is organized and a proposed schedule is planned out for him, with tasks and priorities neatly laid out, empowering him to tackle his schedule with confidence and ease. He returns to reviewing Grace's loan application. The application tracker agent organizes an application summary for him, highlighting key aspects of the loan application. It also clearly categorizes the loan application by risk, completeness, timeliness, and approval probability. What could take hours of review of a loan application is now completed in a few minutes. For further due diligence, he leans upon the application tracker agent to quickly compare Grace's application with past cases based on specific information he seeks. The credit decisioning agent also helps improve his due diligence with the responses to a qualitative scorecard based on Grace's application. The agent auto-approves the personal loan based on Grace's credit profile and with a risk-based pricing discount in minutes. Davis is happy to see this recommendation and sends Grace a personalized and compelling loan proposal. Davis uses an AI-first ecosystem of experience and domain agents to streamline tasks, manage risks, and deliver personalized services, reinforcing his role as a custodian of trust. AI also integrates the bank into Grace's lifestyle, offering conversational engagement and tailored services supporting her financial wellness.
So what you saw there, right, to very quickly summarize is the 7 different agents. This was a retail banking use case, so keeping up with my flow here, there were 6 experience agents and 1 domain agent which were working in harmony across multiple products, right? It went from digital banking to origination to maybe credit check, KYC, refinancing, personal wealth management, all of these happening together. So that was retail banking, right? Now, boom, this slide comes up. What about corporate banking, right? You're talking about trade and cash and supply chain finance and corporate lending, treasury. It's a huge ecosystem out there, right? And we have multitude of products. So I'm not going to differentiate between my son and daughter, so both are very, very important. So this example now, but by nature though, corporate banking is much more domain-centric, right? Because it's happening more in the mid-office and back office, and sometimes it's quite complex. So if you see in this slide, a balance inquiry agent or a documentation agent, or SCF stands for supply chain finance, right? All of these are on the domain layer, whereas in the retail banking demo, 6 of the agents were in the experience layer because it's much more B2C-centric. Yes, there are a couple of key experience agents like cash flow forecasting and AI Assist. And now what we will see is how all of these agents, I lose the count here, I think it's 6, they're going to work together. So why don't we roll the demo, please?
Supremo Corporation is an established American firm with a global presence. The company is now seeking to further expand its existing footprint in Europe in 2 months, for which they have estimated an expenditure of 150 million euros. Let's see how James, the CEO, and Mary, the CFO, use Agentic AI to facilitate their expansion into Europe. James approaches Mary to review the company's cash flow forecast for the next 2 months. Traditionally, this process involves gathering account balances, invoice information, and payables and receivables data from multiple sources, often taking the finance team several days to compile a comprehensive report. Now, by using the AI-powered Demo Bank cash flow forecasting agent, Mary can generate detailed forecasts on the bank's portal. The cash flow forecasting agent can be deployed to consolidate data automatically from the balance inquiry agent. Invoice details hidden in paper forms can be extracted by the AI document agent. These agents working in unison analyze historical cash flow trends, account for uncertainties, and predict future variances. With this capability, the cash flow forecasting agent can provide context-relevant and on-demand views of the company's financial outlook.
That's awesome. We need only a 50 million euros credit line for our expansion plans. Mary, can you please check with our banker in France Bank?
Okay, this one's a bit more complex, Oven, right?
A little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit. So going into corporate banking, you've just showed an example of multiple agents, one that's consuming data, processing data, and then being able to effectively analyze that data. And then you've got a cash management forecast that's also been done as well. So you've got a few agents that are working together within the customer space. But now the customer knows, hey, I need a line of credit, right? And now they want to talk to the bank. So now you've got a customer who's making a decision themselves, and now they want to do something with the bank. So how are you going to do this? Because it's going to be agent-to-agent type conversation or processing.
Jason, you kind of read my mind because the world of corporate banking is inherently complex. You're talking across geographies, continents, multiple banks, multiple regulations. And all the agents we are building, right, across our product factory is all adhering to the right agent-to-agent protocol. And actually, the next part of the demo will show us how we talk to this bank in Western Europe in terms of deciding can they fund the right kind of credit line. And that can only happen if we have architected the agents right. Otherwise, they don't know how to talk to each other. With that, can we roll the second part of the video?
Mary invokes the France Bank AI agent.
Hi France, Supremo Corporation needs a 50 million euros credit line in 2 months.
The agent conducts an AI-based financial analysis and confirms available headroom. Mary requests the agent to trigger an additional credit line for 50 million euros. William, the RM for Supremo Corporation at France Bank, is assigned this request. He invokes the Banker AI risk agent to generate a credit write-up. The agent collates the key information from various reports like underwriters and conducts a sentiment analysis of market information on Supremo Corporation to generate the write-up. Based on collateral pooling, necessary review, and approval from William, the France Bank corporate AI agent informs Mary of the additional sanction of the 50 million euros credit line. Mary tees off the company's expansion by adding new suppliers in Europe to their existing SCF program.
Hi France, please add additional suppliers to the SCF program in Europe from the supplier contracts.
The Banker AI SCF Smart Program agent enables the bank user to quickly create tailor-made SCF programs, which would otherwise typically require William to manually check the key contract terms from the supplier contract and key them into the SCF application. The Banker AI SCF Smart Program Agent automatically creates a program by extracting data from the supplier contract, segregating it into financing program and relationship-based parameters. Based on necessary reviews and approvals, new SCF programs are created for the new suppliers in Europe. The France Bank Corporate AI Agent informs Mary that the SCF programs have been created, and the suppliers have been informed.
James, good news. We are all set for our expansion in Europe. An additional credit line for 50 million euros has been sanctioned and suppliers have been onboarded to our SCF program.
Wow, done already?
Yes, France Bank's corporate AI agent has made things so much easier and faster for us.
So before I pass it, and Jason shows a couple of quick things, and just to summarize, in that corporate banking, there are so many things which are happening, right? You had cash forecasting, you had things around credit finance, you had things around limits and collateral management, you had things around risk tolerance, you had things around supply chain invocation, and normally these can be months actually in terms of how banks are going to operate to get that credit line done for the expansion, but done right with the right level of risk focus. It's almost like magic, to be very honest. Speaking of risk, Jason, you want to show us some stuff from?
Yeah, I mean, you've talked a lot about how the bank operates from the customer and banking relationship perspective, but underpinning the bank is an entire corporate center that has to support it from I suppose, a trust and a resiliency perspective as well, okay? So we've not only been looking at the customer and banker side, we've also been looking at, okay, well, how do we actually run the bank better as such? So one of the areas that we wanted to focus on today is this idea of scenario analysis. And Mike talked about it in his keynote yesterday, is organizations always want to know what's around the corner. What's the new market trend that's happening, or there's going to be a change in FX rates or interest rates or something along those lines. So now we can put the agent-based technologies into practice, and we're going to show an example here of how you actually can fast-track stress testing that is required to be done by banks. So let's show that in the video.
Jack Miller is the Chief Financial Officer of a Tier 1 U.S. bank. He's responsible for ensuring the bank can withstand economic shocks and regulatory scrutiny. Every day, he works to understand the impact external market factors could have on the bank and its customers. He is constantly asking, what happens to the loan portfolio if interest rates rise by 2% overnight? How will higher interest rates impact capital adequacy? And in a severe downturn, will the bank still meet regulatory thresholds? To answer this, and to meet Federal Reserve requirements, the bank must run the Comprehensive Capital Analysis and Review, or CCAR, every year. Each year, the Federal Reserve subjects large banks to these stress tests to assess their ability to withstand tough economic conditions while operating. Traditionally, preparing for CCAR takes Jack's team months of gathering data, building scenarios, and calculating impacts across the balance sheet. But with Oracle Stress Testing and Scenario Analytics, Julie Warren, the head of stress testing at the bank, can now work far more efficiently. She can intuitively converse with the built-in AI assistant to set up and execute the CCAR stress test without manually collecting data or configuring each scenario one by one. The AI assistant automatically retrieves the CCAR stress test requirements from the Federal Reserve site and converts them into two scenarios, a baseline and a severely adverse case. The baseline reflects a normal economic outlook with steady growth and stable markets. The severely adverse case models a full economic crisis, a sharp GDP contraction, unemployment spiking over 10%, a major equity market drop, and significant credit stress. The Stress Testing and Scenario Analytics agent has now created the scenarios that need to be executed on the bank's portfolio.
So Jason, that's impressive. You know, if we were a chief risk officer or CFO, this is what they kind of dream of. But we saw a lot of if-then-else kind of scenario, but it's not real unless you apply it to the actual bank's portfolio, right, to see how it would do in a real world.
Exactly. So we're only halfway through, right? So if we just stopped at where we are, not much value that's added. So what we've done is we've gone through this, and we've actually now said, okay, well, let's apply these scenarios to the banking portfolio, and been able to build agents that effectively call business as usual engines to be able to actually work out what that impact on the bank's portfolio would be. So let's have a look at what that looks like.
Julie is now in a position to measure the impact of the stress test on the bank's business, based on the AI agent's recommended metrics, including regulatory capital ratios, credit losses, and revenue projections. Once she confirms, the test is executed directly within the platform, leveraging the bank's own data and calculation engines, the same engines used to run daily operations. Julie then reviews the results, comparing the baseline and severely adverse scenarios across the key CCAR metrics. She can see exactly how capital, profitability, and liquidity would be affected under different economic shocks. After the review, she makes the summarized CCAR results available directly to Jack through Oracle Analytics on both desktop and mobile. What once took months can now be executed within a single working day. Oracle stress testing and scenario analytics frees up thousands of work hours, giving leadership timely insights that empower the bank not only to withstand shocks, but also to identify new opportunities for growth and optimization, using stress testing and scenario analytics agents to pinpoint these scenarios with precision.
Okay, so we've seen an example of a very complex multi-decisioning agent that really fast-tracks the stress testing, and you can apply it to scenario analysis process within the bank. And if you didn't notice, it connects the CFO or the CRO all the way through to the analyst who actually undertake this sort of activity at the bank. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pivot to financial crime. So we talked about trust within the bank, and it's very important that from a banking perspective, banks are on the lookout for financial crime, and they're effectively stopping this. They do this today, but it's in a very, very sort of slow and cumbersome process. Slow and cumbersome because they need to investigate all the alerts of potential financial crime that occurs. And the false positive rates of this is very high, in the high 90s as such. So they need operations teams that, depending on the size of the bank, could be hundreds to thousands of people to work through these alerts. And this requires gathering a lot of data and bringing it together before they make a decision as to whether or not they want to send out a suspicious activity record to the relevant regulator as such. But we've got a new process, and that is enabled by AI agents. And that new process is being able to collect a whole series of data and make determinations on that data, and then provide that to the analyst or investigator to significantly cut down the time required to look at these alerts. So let's see that in practice.
Mark Johnson is a senior financial crime investigator at a global bank. Each week, he and his team face hundreds of suspicious activity alerts. Some are routine, others may hide serious financial risk. The sheer volume of alerts means Mark often spends hours switching between systems, gathering evidence, and writing long reports just to determine which cases truly matter. This is where Oracle AI Investigator comes in. What once took hours now takes minutes. On the left-hand side, Mark sees the details of the case and the entity. The AI assigns a risk score of 98.85, calculated by an algorithmic model. It also highlights the top 3 risk factors in the investigation: geography risk, rapid movement of funds, and potential structuring. At the center, the AI reviews the customer's transactions and generates a narrative of risks and anomalies, which Mark can use immediately. Instead of spending days chasing down transaction records, the AI surfaces the key risks instantly. He looks at the AI-generated narrative, a piece of evidence that previously would have taken him hours to draft. The system recommends that this case is likely a true positive, with a risk score of 63 points higher than the baseline. For Mark, this is transformative. A task that once consumed hours of writing and cross-checking is condensed into a ready-to-use narrative. The AI flags the alert with evidence he can trust.
So Jason, that's great, but you're in the business of risk management, and I was worrying about QA and human and everything in between. You thought about them?
Have we ever? And one of your key tenets is human in the loop.
Correct.
So as part of this process, we actually now provide the ability for the investigator and analyst to partake in the process. but obviously in a much more optimized manner. So now they've got all the data surfaced to them, and now they can start to make decisions on that and actually provide feedback back to the agent as well. So we'll see how that looks in the next video.
Mark can mark the case as relevant or not, helping the system learn over time. He reviews the summary narrative, recalls specific details when needed, and captures additional signals. He can also add transactions or regenerate the narrative, and compare multiple versions as the case evolves. Instead of juggling multiple tools, Mark can focus on decisions. The multi-agent system automatically pulls evidence from across platforms into one place. His role shifts from gathering information to validating insights. On the right-hand side, he sees the evidence log populated automatically by multiple AI agents. Data from several systems is already pulled into the case. As he scrolls down, Mark reviews transactions tied to rapid movement of funds. He drills into details or examines the waterfall chart that shows how money flowed into the account, how it left, and the final balance. The visualizations give him multiple ways to understand and explain the suspicious activity. With every transaction tracked and visualized, what once took hours of whiteboarding is now available instantly. Mark sees the entire flow of funds in seconds, confident nothing is missed. In minutes, Mark turns a complex alert into a regulator-ready, evidence-backed case powered by Oracle's AI investments. What used to demand days of effort now takes minutes. For Mark, that means fewer late nights and less manual effort, giving him and his team the space to focus on what truly matters, stopping financial crime before it escalates. With Oracle AI Investigator, Mark can do more with less, and still achieve greater accuracy and efficiency than ever before.
I think you saw how happy Mark was. I mean, he had the double fists up, right?
Yeah.
This really helps his life as an investigator. But really, in the risk area, whether it's in compliance or on the financial risk, this is only the beginning in complex multi-decisioning agents. So really looking forward to seeing how we build out more agents in the future.
Excellent, excellent. We're at the end of it. Can we move the slide to the next slide, please? So, I mean, if I were to boil it all down, we started with generational shift of banking. We went through types of agents. We looked at transitions in technology. We talked about experience and domain agents. We talked about a banking reference architecture, which can cut across pretty much any bank in the world. Then it's seeing is believing. You saw 4 complex demos across retail banking, corporate banking, financial crime compliance, and risk management. And by the way, we are on it. All of these agents are coming at high pace in our October release. So you will see a lot of these actually coming live for consumption, assuming you're on the SaaS side of the business with Oracle. But the idea ultimately is to make it available beyond that. So I don't even have to tell the first point, right? AI essentially is your competitive differentiator. I mean, I would say that we embrace it, we enable it, and that becomes the differentiating moat, which differentiates literally every bank in the world. Having said that, data, control, security are mission critical, right? I mean, again, it's a trust-based business, and we absolutely must obsess about it. Borderline paranoia is sometimes good. And last but not the least, you're hearing today, you all are in AI world. I mean, Oracle is working across the layers of the stack, like I would say, from the metal layer, the data center, to the horizontal foundation, OCI, and to all our industry apps and Fusion. So we are a partner who can make a true difference for you in this journey, and we are in this together. Next slide, please. This was an early morning session, right? So we have a lot of other things going on in financial services. I'm not going to read all of these, but if you all have some time, check out, the progressive banking modernization, or how we kind of accelerate AI in Oracle apps, the one around cash, and the one around, reg reporting benchmark, So these are all happening, further deep dives, but thank you all. We appreciate your time and patience listening, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.